Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast on a Friday, 2 o'clock, happy hour time. If you're quitting early, Zach Berman would never do that. He is here on, 2.5 hours of sleep. He's made his way from the bowels of Gillette Stadium back to Philadelphia and off to the Jersey Shore. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing well. That 2 o'clock happy hour, is that a thing you customarily do? Are people at happy hour right now?
It's a summer Friday. Sometimes you get half days on summer Fridays. Quit early.
Okay. I was in the quiet car in the train coming back from Providence today. It was going great.
My gosh, I forgot you were taking the train back. How long did that take?
5 hours, 5:15.
Did you get any sleep on the train?
Got about 2.5 hours of sleep. Yeah, so that helped. But it was going great. But then there was one woman there who was having like a really loud conversation on the phone on the quiet train.
On the quiet car?
On the quiet car.
Oh, I'm surprised it wasn't executed.
Everyone was kind of turning around, and then the conductor comes through.
I don't know.
Very sternly, he says, "I'm the only one who's allowed to speak
in
this car." That's what he said. I'm the only one who's allowed to speak in this car. I was like, wow.
That was his opening line?
That's what he said. That's how he told her to stop. Yeah, I'm the only one who's allowed to speak in this car.
And what did she do?
She got off her conversation.
Well, I didn't know if she got off the phone or if she moved cars, potentially. I mean, it could have been a mistaken.
No, perhaps.
Do you think she knew that she was in the quiet car?
I don't know the answer to that. I did not have a conversation with her. I had my AirPods in the entire time.
You knew not to talk to her. That would be rude.
No, that would be violating the rules of the quiet car. Yes.
I think
I re-listened. I had you and Jamie as my companion in the train. I was listening to the show from last night.
The thing with the quiet car is, do you find yourself hyper attuned to other noises that you're making? Like if you're breathing loud, or like, let's say you were eating something, if you were like munching on a potato chip or something like that. Oh, that was too loud for the quiet car.
No, I really.
In the absence of sound, any little thing becomes voluminous.
It's hard to say. I had the AirPods in the whole time, so I don't know the right answer to that. But I was listening to you and Jamie. I was reading coverage from around the Eagles beat on the game last night. I didn't get to rewatch the game yet. As you warned me, the Wi-Fi on the train is not really great for streaming a game back. But I was there. I have a lot of thoughts. I'm ready to roll.
We will get to that, and we will go through our current 53-man roster projections as a way to take a scope of where things stand at the moment. But Zach, do you go? I just need the follow-up. Do you go noise canceling on the AirPods, or you go transparent, or you go the in-between one?
Adaptive?
Yeah.
Is that? Yeah, I do adaptive.
That's right. Okay. Yeah, I feel like if I go noise canceling not on an airplane, it kind of gives me a headache.
Oh, it doesn't give me a headache. I like the noise canceling, but the adaptive is great because if you speak, the sound on the AirPods goes down. So I like that.
You love technology.
I do. Yes, I do love technology.
All right, let's get to it, Zach. And you know what? We're going to start with the Ace Hardware temperature check. Zach, over the course of the season, our friends at Ace are going to help us talk about the things that are rising or cooling down in the Eagles world. And we can take a look at what Eagle is heating up or cooling off with our Ace Hardware temperature check. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at www.acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project. And I think this is very easy. This is what the whole city is talking about, Zach. You walk outside and everybody's shouting at you, hey, is it going to be Tanner McKee as the 2? Are they going to throw Kenny Pickett overboard? Let's talk about it. We talked about it last night, but I don't think that sleep, a good night's sleep for most of us, has deterred the way that most people feel. Tanner McKee is the better quarterback than Kenny Pickett right now. How long will it take for the Eagles to admit that?
That's a leading question, right? Because
Accurate.
you're not asking me, is Tanner McKee the better quarterback? You're saying Tanner McKee is the better quarterback. How long will the Eagles take to think
Yeah,
that?
I'm a journalist. I'm telling the truth.
Okay, well, you're giving your opinion.
That's not an
Look,
opinion.
that is an opinion that Tanner McKee is the better quarterback than
It's
Kenny
not. It's
Pickett.
fact. Things have. This is like Mekhi Becton is not the starting right guard yet. Yes, he is.
Okay, so I agree. Kenny Pickett has been outplayed by Tanner McKee. So I'll start with that. There are different factors at place in the game, at least last night. I think that's why this conversation needs to go beyond simply the game last night. The game last night, there were factors beyond. I don't want to say beyond Pickett's control, because he has the ball every play, but he's going up against the first team defense. As Nick Sirianni said, there was a lot of pressure in his face, more so than with McKee. But I do think, and I'll give you credit because you identified this early on, McKee gets rid of the ball quicker. Okay, I think he makes quicker decisions, and the offense seems to run better with McKee in there. There's parts of Pickett's game that McKee can't duplicate, the mobility in particular, extending plays. McKee does not do that nearly as well. But, yeah, McKee has played better, has shown more promise. Pickett has starting experience in this league. It depends how much the Eagles value that. So I'm going to turn this around to you here, because this is what I want to know. Do you think the Eagles are clinging to the idea of Pickett as the number 2 because of the investment that they made? Or do you think it's because of the overall evaluation of Pickett that includes the context of his first 2 seasons in the NFL, perhaps their evaluation of him coming out of Pitt, in addition to the investment that they made?
I think the answer is neither. I think they are not actually clinging to it.
Okay.
I think they are saying that they are clinging to it. I mean, the degree to which they are professing, there's nothing to see here. Kenny Pickett is our number 2. I think you have been around long enough, Zach, to know that like the louder that comes from the building, the less true it is. I think they see what we see, and they have to figure out the right way and the most delicate way to move forward, knowing that. That's what I think is happening. Because I also think it's not just last night's game. That last night's game reflected what we have seen all summer. It's the same style of play issue. Tanner McKee gets rid of the ball. Kenny Pickett does not. It's the same thing we saw last summer. You know, I wrote the column after the second preseason game last year that Tanner McKee should be the number 2 over Marcus Mariota for a lot of these same reasons. And I think if you just think about what would actually happen in a game, like if Kenny Pickett is the backup quarterback, it becomes the Kenny Pickett show. It's like how much how much freneticism can he do? Can he escape the rush? Is he going to get rid of the ball? What kind of plays is he going to make? If Tanner McKee is the quarterback with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and Saquon Barkley, he's going to get rid of the ball and give the better players on the field a chance to help you win games. There's going to be so much higher upside. I think Tanner McKee is a good quarterback. But aside from that, if the Eagles accept that, how do they move forward? I don't think they're going to cut him. That would be silly, right? You know, he would be overpriced for a third quarterback, and his contract's guaranteed, but it's not onerous. It's 1 and change this year, 2 and change next year. I think that they would love to trade him if they could. I think my guess is that they would probably be more open to a player for player trade, so that it doesn't look like, well, you gave up 4th round value for him in April and now you're trading him for a 6th round pick. Like, that wasn't a good deal. So I think that's a possibility. And then I think that the thing that we have talked about is on the table, that maybe early in the season, Kenny Pickett is the backup quarterback on game day, and Tanner McKee is the emergency quarterback on game day. But if something happens long term, it'll be a very short leash for Kenny Pickett. I just don't think the idea that they don't believe what everybody else has seen, and as I said last night, what everybody on the roster has seen over the course of the summer, like the eye in the sky don't lie, as they say, right? Like, the tape doesn't lie. They have a guy who is clearly better and for like all the reasons that they liked Kenny Pickett as cost controlled assurance, Tanner McKee's even cheaper and has an extra year on his deal.
So for a moment, don't be an evaluator, be a forecaster. Week 1 against the Green Bay Packers, who's the number 2 quarterback? Who's the designated third quarterback?
I think if they're both on the roster, Kenny Pickett is number 2. I think right now there's a real chance that Kenny Pickett is traded.
Okay. But that's my point, is that I'm expecting Pickett to be the number 2 quarterback. I do think they are honest when they say that Pickett's their number 2.
I don't agree with that at all.
I don't think it's ironclad, but I think the way they view it right now is Pickett's their number 2, McKee is their number 3. Because if there was a game tomorrow,
I think you need a little bit more skepticism about the things that they say to you on the podium.
I'm not even talking about what they say at the podium. I'm saying based on how, and this is what you just said. If in Brazil, you said you think Pickett's the number 2 quarterback and McKee's number 3. That's exactly what I just said. I'm not saying that's the way it should be. I don't think Pickett's been as lights out as McKee's been as lights out as it might be portrayed. I thought, frankly, in the joint practice on Tuesday, Pickett outplayed McKee. But I do think on the aggregate this summer, McKee has outplayed Pickett. I wrote in that 15-step guide to Howie Roseman's offseason that you can find on allphly.com. Before that, the Eagles should give McKee the chance to win the backup job. That I didn't think they should add someone like Pickett. When they added someone like Pickett, I understood the impetus for it, or the motivation for it. But I still believe that McKee should have had a more earnest job or an earnest opportunity to win the number 2 job. I think if they went into Brazil, if the Brazil game was this weekend, Pickett would be number 2, McKee would be number 3. I'm not saying that's the way it should be, but I do think that's the way it is. And I've been consistent with this, is I also think if Jalen Hurts went down for 10 games, 6 games, whatever it may be, then I think Pickett is I think they would start McKee. But what we don't know about McKee, and I'm curious what that smirk on your face is for. We'll find that out in a second. What we don't know about McKee yet, okay, is you say how he would function with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and I get that. But how he would function against a top defense, against a defensive coordinator that's scheming for him, because that has not happened yet in the NFL.
Okay, he would also have a much better offensive line. I mean, all of that
sure
is part of the bigger picture. I'm smiling because I just got the text message that I believe the 3rd of the 6 cameos I have ordered for the 7th annual Ospreys has just been delivered. I will look forward to watching that when the show is over. Thursday, 2 o'clock.
Glad you had that smirk there. Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to add is that, like, it's not just the performance, the balance of what they say and what they do. They have been giving Tanner McKee reps with the second team at the expense of Kenny Pickett, which is not a thing.
But they have not given Pickett reps with the third team.
Right, because I think it's a very delicate situation for them.
Sure.
They have to handle it. And that's why I think that they might lean towards the Pickett too early in the season. But
yeah,
when push comes to shove, I think that Howie Roseman knows, and they all believe, that Tanner McKee is their actual second best quarterback.
I wouldn't disagree with you there. And I think that's why I think one of the issues that they could honestly run into is if you're shouting from the mountaintop that competition is a core value and you're all about your core values, then, and like you mentioned, the team sees it and you go in. So how much does that weigh? If what matters as much as competition is whether the equity that you spent to acquire the player, the context of when he was drafted, what your evaluation might have been out of college, if that comes into it, then you can earnestly say to the team, this is about, we're all about competition here, right? Because
exactly.
I would agree. Tanner McKee has outplayed Kenny Pickett this summer. But I do think they would try to fight you on the technicality of it. of going up against the starters of the difference between second team and third team.
Yeah, I get that, but I don't need to be football explained. Like we've been watching preseasons for a decade.
Yes.
Like I can tell the difference.
Yeah. Now, look, I think the practices way more. Those factor in more to me than the preseason games because we've seen guys get hot in preseason games. I saw Tim Tebow play decently in a fourth preseason game against the Jets, right? I think
there's a difference. There's a difference between
I get it.
A guy running around and making plays versus a guy getting the ball out on the top of his drop in the face of a rush, throwing guys open.
Sure.
When Kenny Pickett is like he looks like he's never seen a blitz before every time he gets blitzed.
Yeah, and look, the other thing too is the Steelers fan base is not surprised by this, right? I mean, if you talk to people in Pittsburgh, it's like, yeah, we could have told you this, right? So that I always think of the scenario we like to bring up. If you're an opposing team, if Jalen goes down, and you're an opposing team, who would you rather face? Would you rather face Pickett or would you rather face McKee? And I think the opposing teams would rather face Pickett because I think of the arm talent that McKee presents.
Kenny Pickett for Quentin Johnston. Who says no?
So now Easton Stick's getting kicked to the curb, which is kind of funny because Easton Stick was interested in signing with the Eagles, right? Who says no? Probably the Chargers, honestly.
Interesting.
I don't know the answer to that, but I also don't think the Vikings are like rushing to get Kenny Pickett. I mean, Sam Darnold's here for that reason.
I don't think that's. Yeah. I think that's a situation that would make more sense is Los Angeles, where or somewhere where they're really more worried about the backup, not someone to compete as a starter.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Well, let's use this to begin our.
If I could just ask you this, and we'll have time to discuss it. Third preseason game. Do you think it's Pickett versus McKee in that game, or do you think that they're acting very delicately here?
I don't think that Kenny Pickett's going to play. I think they want Kenny Pickett on ice right now. I think they'll give McKee a chance to play a half, and maybe Will Grier a chance to play a whole half or something like that. I don't know. What do you think? I guess the idea of the Will Grier thing last night was to get him a series.
Yes.
In case that they don't play him in game 3. So I don't know. Maybe they will both play. What do you think?
Well, yeah, they thought Grier deserved the series. I think that you'll see less of Pickett and less of McKee. I think you'll see a lot of Will Grier next week.
Okay. All right. Let's get to our 53-man roster projections as a way to wrap around all these conversations from last night. I think I would be surprised if you and I don't have the exact same thing here. I've got all 3 guys on the roster at the moment.
Yeah, I have the same 3 guys. I don't have them trading Kenny Pickett right now. Certainly wouldn't rule that out. Let me ask you this, Bo. What if a team has watched McKee and is really intrigued and they offer something for McKee? Would you trade McKee?
What are they offering?
A third.
A third? Ooh, interesting.
I mean, that might be high, but
that's spicy. I mean, I probably wouldn't. We're talking about
he's a Camp Crush.
Evolutionary Nick Foles, but
I think people need to get over. I think people need to stop the evolutionary Nick Foles thing. I mean, look, a 6'6", like a tall quarterback's not necessarily Nick Foles.
He's a good player.
Yeah, I think Nick Foles had a little more athleticism than he did. I don't think Nick Foles. I think Nick Foles was a little bit more of. I think Foles' game was different than McKee's.
Yeah, he only won 1 Super Bowl. McKee's going to win multiple.
But as I said on the postgame show last night, which you can still watch the replay if you missed that on our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts. In 2017, Foles did not play at all in the preseason. Before his injury, he really struggled. He barely was there in the spring, and there was concern. There was concern about Nick Foles going into that year. And then they kind of let Foles got healthy. He got some confidence, obviously, in the playoffs and went on a heater. But it's not without precedent that a backup quarterback struggles. They hang with him, and then that guy catches fire.
All right. How about running back, Zach? You've got Saquon Barkley, Kenny Gainwell, and Will Shipley, all locks to make the roster. Do you have any inclination to include Tyrion Davis-Price, Kendall Milton, or Lou Nichols?
Right now, I have 3 because I think the 3 that you mentioned would be on practice squad, or I think they would get through waivers, go on practice squad. I don't think there's a push to keep the 4th unless one of them is returning kickoffs or punts for you or have some meaningful special teams role. I don't anticipate that being the case. We haven't talked about it as much. I did write this yesterday on allphly.com that I think Davis-Price has intrigued me as a runner. Now, he can't catch the ball, but he has a big physical running style, and I think in games
he ran well last night.
Yeah, and the first game too against the Ravens as well.
Yeah, he's broken some tackles and he's showed some patience and some violence as a runner. So I do think that there is reason to be intrigued with TDP. I also only have 3 running backs, and this is one where I'm thinking of this. Like I think the initial 53-man roster might look a little bit different than the week 1 53-man roster. Right now, I have 27 on defense and only 23 on offense as the split. So we can get to that as we keep going.
My split is I have 24 on offense, so therefore 26 on defense and 3 on specials.
Okay. Well, before we keep going, Zach, let's talk about our friends at Rite Aid. Because the fall is coming up, Zach. Now, you know what comes with the fall? Football.
Oh, allergies. No.
But also allergies. That's right. Now, we've done the education on allergies before, right? The main culprits, the dreaded duo of ragweed and mold. Then you've also got your sagebrush, your tumbleweed, your pigweed, your dust mites, your pet dander and fur. And all of that stuff floating around in the air, it hits some of us harder than others. And an allergic reaction occurs when your body misidentifies a substance such as pollen that is as harmful to the body. And then your immune system releases histamines to fight off the allergens. Interestingly enough, these same histamines are also the cause of your allergy symptoms, such as a runny nose, itchy or watery eyes, or wheezing. That's why antihistamines, medication that suppresses the amount of histamine in your body, are often the first line of defense to treating your allergy symptoms. And those antihistamines, well, a lot of them available over the counter at Rite Aid. You can try a nasal rinse to help flush out your nasal passages. When symptoms are flaring up or when you know that pollen counts are high, try antihistamines such as loratadine, which is like Claritin, or cetirizine, which is like Zyrtec. And 1 to 2 weeks before pollen allergies are expected to be high, you can try those nasal corticosteroids like fluticasone, which is Flonase, and triamcinolone, which is Nasacort. You know what? I almost nailed that. I thought I was 3 for 3, and then triamcinolone tripped me up a little bit. I'm going to have to work on that one. Still not enough relief? Ask a Rite Aid pharmacist. If a different type of allergy medication like a decongestant might be necessary, you can always ask your Rite Aid pharmacist for recommendations on ways to get relief during allergy season. Fall is coming up. Get prepared with Rite Aid.
You know what would be aggravating on the quiet train? I talked about someone having a conversation. What if you were sitting next to a snorer? Someone who snored and was loud.
Oh, that would be tough.
Yeah. They're trying to adhere to the rules, but they fell asleep and they snore. And when that person woke up, I would turn to them and I would say, let me tell you about my friends at Sleep Healthy PA. Because at Sleep Healthy PA, they are committed to helping Philadelphia residents and perhaps Amtrak riders as well stop the snore and find solutions for sleep apnea that will allow you to rest well and improve your health. So what causes sleep apnea, they might ask me? Well, I'll say there's a little choke point in the throat that causes snoring. Think of it like a kink in a garden hose. And that person would say, oh, that's interesting. If I want to talk to someone about this, who should I talk to? And I'll say, I have just the person for you, Dr. Andrew Cohen, because he's board certified in dental sleep medicine, and his staff will work one-on-one with you to provide first-class care that will meet your needs. Many physicians aren't equipped to provide other options outside of the CPAP machines. And more than anything, He just wants to see his patients healthy. If you're tired of CPAP machines that are too cumbersome, is your significant other tired of it too? Is the person sitting next to you on the train tired of it? You got to know 50% of divorces cite snoring as a main issue. I don't know what percentage of people in quiet cars cite it as an issue, but I imagine quite a bit there as well. They're based in Jenkintown. Dr. Cohen has worked for years to educate dentists across the country on his personal approach to helping those with sleep apnea. His team is committed to stopping the snore. Tell him that PHLY sent you and receive 15% off your initial workup. The process includes a 2-hour initial exam split into 2 sessions, information gathering, and then you can review the results and share recommendations. If you are experiencing sleep apnea and are looking for a custom solution to stop the snore, reach out to Dr. Andrew Cohen at Sleep Healthy PA or call 215-337-2501. Tell him PHLY sent you.
All right, Zach. Let's talk about tight ends as we move our way down. Now, EJ Jenkins, nice game yesterday. Made a couple of flashy plays, but also suffered an injury down the stretch. Was able to get off under his own power. We don't know what's going on there just yet. Grant Calcaterra, Dallas Goedert, locks. How do you see the third tight end playing out here?
Yes, so this is an interesting one. On my 53, I had EJ Jenkins on it right now.
Me too.
And interesting. And that's from an evaluation more than a forecasting. I don't know if that's the path they would go. I think EJ Jenkins has been the third best tight end on the Eagles this summer. I think that he offers you more than CJ Uzomah. I don't know why they would keep CJ Uzomah on the 53. I think he's someone that you put on practice squad, you can elevate him. I think what your Alberto has been out this week. As we mentioned, this was a critical week. So I don't see a third who's better than EJ Jenkins. Now, what they could do is they could keep 2, go deeper at a different position, see what happens on the waiver wire, figure out the third tight end thereafter. So if we're kind of talking about the initial 53, it wouldn't surprise me if they only kept 2. I'm sorry, do you keep hearing the text on my phone, on my computer?
Yeah, it's a chain that you and I are on together.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to get the text to stop ringing on the computer.
I don't hear the ding on your end.
Oh, you don't hear the ding. Okay.
No,
all right,
we don't
good.
hear the ding.
All right, good. That's what I felt bad about. So I think they could keep 2, but if they kept 3, and for the sake of my 53, I have them keeping 3 because they don't go into the game. They don't go into a game with only 2 tight ends. In that case, I have EJ Jenkins.
Yeah, we see it. Marissa, stop texting during the show. She says that. Marissa says hi to the sickos. This is a position, Zach, where I think just like
Michael Dunn said hi to Kenny Pickett.
Yeah,
to kind of loop this all together.
Marissa says hi to the sickos.
Yes.
This is a position where I think some of the new roster math machinations may come into play. Now, remember, the league made a rule change this year that you can place guys on injured reserve on the day of roster cutdowns, and they are not out for the season. They can be placed on IR to return to come back at cutdowns. So let's say EJ Jenkins or Albert O, for whatever reason, they want to hold a guy like that. I think that's possible. I also think this is a spot where, like, if you don't love EJ Jenkins, but you want to keep him in the building and you want to find a different third tight end, the order of operations would probably make more sense to do. You just keep CJ Uzomah on roster cutdown day and hope that EJ Jenkins makes it through waivers. You put him on practice squad, and then when you add your actual third tight end, then you cut CJ Uzomah, and maybe you're able to bring him back after week 1, something like that. But right now, I have EJ Jenkins as the third tight end.
Okay, so you and I are on the same wavelength there. And just to follow up on your point, because that is an important distinction if you're doing your 53s. In the past, if you place a guy on IR before cutdown or on cutdown day, he'd be missing for the season. This year, you're allowed to have 2 players like that. So it's not as many as you want. It's 2 players in particular.
Correct. All right. Wide receiver, Zach. Another position where some injury news last night. Johnny Wilson in the concussion protocol. John Ross went into the concussion protocol after what I thought was his best display of juice this season, getting past Christian Gonzalez. Right now, I have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Johnny Wilson, Britton Covey. I think those guys are all locks to make the team. And right now, I have Paris Campbell on the team, but I don't feel good about that. And I think that I think this is one where he might be here on cut down day and gone the next day, or not on the team at all.
So two things. You and I have the same wide receiver quintet here. So I'm happy that I'm learning from you here, following along. But I should say three things. Two, I have the same trepidation regarding Paris Campbell. Third, I want to applaud both of us here because I do not like 53-man projections that says like a receiver they're going to add later here. I don't like that. That's too.
Well, I think if you're specific, you can,
if you're saying this receiver, if you're saying Quentin Johnson, John Mechie, Terrace Marshall Jr., right? I'm okay with that. But if you're like a wide receiver who's not on the roster, I don't like that.
They have to actually, they have to get to the 53.
Yeah. So now they could trade.
Now I don't know that we need to be applauded for our bravery, but
but no, you operate with the facts at hand here. Paris Campbell, the injury did slow his momentum. I still think that they value the experience there. I think they value the skill set there. We kind of talk about, if a vested veteran, the contract's guaranteed if he's on the roster week 1. I don't think there's so much money there that's a concern. I think that the upside of Paris Campbell is probably more appealing to them. So my guess right now is Paris Campbell's the 5th. It is. I'm glad you brought up the injuries because it is noteworthy this week. Johnny Wilson and John Ross both have concussions. 5 important practices coming up for the Eagles. You never know how long that concussion keeps a player out. You hope for their sake, for their long-term sake, it's not long. But Johnny Wilson was competing for the number 3 job. John Ross was competing for a 53 job. And these injuries could affect both of those situations.
And we got to see if Paris Campbell can get back on the field.
Yeah, he was limited in practice on Tuesday. My guess is when they practice Saturday, he will be playing.
You and I have just spent a long time talking about the wide receivers, and we have not even mentioned, Zach, the 5th-round pick, who neither of us has on the roster. Any chance for Nia Smith?
Look, there's a chance he plays lights out in the 3rd preseason game. He'll get a lot of work in the 3rd preseason game. I don't anticipate Nia Smith making the team. No.
Yeah.
How about yesterday's star, Joseph Ngata?
We should talk about Joseph Ngata. Because he played well yesterday. I think I could be convinced. Like, let's say the Johnny Wilson injury lingers, then maybe Ngata sneaks through as the 5th guy for week 1. But even in that scenario, I don't see anything long term. That was a really nice performance, and you feel happy for him. But that's not the kind of thing that we've seen over the course of the summer.
And to get back to the question about the wide receiver from elsewhere, do you anticipate, because we both agree they're going to look, do you anticipate something done before cuts, a la CJ Gardner-Johnson, or do you anticipate something done after cuts when they see the waiver wire? So a trade would be before cuts, a claim would be after cuts.
I think it might be both.
Oh, okay. So you think 2 new players could be in here?
I think if it's going to be a trade and someone of significance who they view as their 3rd wide receiver, that will happen before cuts. And then I think they might also claim a guy who just has a little bit of juice that they might be interested in.
Would you do Eli Ricks?
And that would be the guy who bumps like Paris Campbell or whatever.
Would you do Eli Ricks for Terrace Marshall Jr.?
I don't know that I have a strong opinion of Terrace Marshall Jr., but I'm not. I would be inclined to say yes without looking into Terrace Marshall closer.
My understanding is he's coming off a really strong performance in the joint practices that the Panthers played, that he is someone that they would move. I don't think they would move, even though the Panthers added Xavier Legette and Deontay Johnson this offseason. I don't think they were there that they would move Jonathan Mingo. So I think if you're looking for a young receiver on Carolina, then I think I think Terrace Marshall Jr. would be the one you would look for.
What
I
about
also think that's a good question. I'll do some digging there, but I think they would be interested in a corner from the Eagles.
Yeah, they just lost Dane Jackson,
Yep.
right? So they're hurting bad at corner, and the Eagles certainly have a glut there. All right, offensive line, Zach. This is so far. I didn't have any changes from the last time. I do have one change here. You've got the starting 5. You've got Tyler Steen. You've got Fred Johnson. I think you would view those 7 as locks. I also have Trevor Keegan on the team. I think he's close to a lock. I think Dylan McMahon is close to a lock as well. That's 9. And that's it. That's all I have. Okay. I do not have Brett Toth. I do not have Matt Hennessy. I do not have Darian Kennard.
So this is our first discrepancy. I have Darian Kennard here as the 10th. I agree with you.
I think that's a better pick than Toth.
I agree. Keegan's a lock. I think McMahon's a lock. I think McMahon's better than Toth. I would have played McMahon with the second team.
Yeah, I think this is one where they're pussyfooting around trying to get too cute about not showing him too much, but like you don't have to do that anymore. Like, he's the backup center.
Matt Hennessy, I saw him last night leaving the locker room. There's an injury here. I believe Ross Tucker said that. I didn't get a chance to watch Ross.
Yeah.
When
Ross,
I was watching during the game.
When Nick Gates first went in at right guard, he said that Hennessy wasn't playing tonight.
Yeah, Hennessy was walking very gingerly. Can you be very gingerly or just gingerly? Are there degrees of gingerly?
Yeah, there's degrees of gingerly. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I think you could modify unique too.
Okay, but he was walking gingerly there to the bus. So there is something there that is impeding him. Brett Toth, I get the versatility. He was playing.
Can you play speculative doctor? Was it like was this a groin? Was this a foot? Was this a leg? A knee? What did you think? What was he favoring?
I would guess more like the groin hamstring area.
When you said walking gingerly, that sounded groiny to me.
It sounds groiny to you. You think it gingerly is groiny walk. Okay.
Because otherwise you'd be like, I think you would have described it as like he was really favoring one side or the other.
Yeah, it wasn't as much a limp as it was a gingerly, you're careful.
Right.
Okay. It could be hamstring.
Let's be Dr. David Chow or whatever.
Okay. But he was walking.
Oh, that looks like it's like a 3rd degree groin that he's got there. That could be 3 weeks.
So Hennessy, someone who I thought would make the 53 going into the summer, has been with the 3rd team hurt right now. That's not the case. I don't think Toth is good, and I think as much as he has the versatility, I don't think he's good enough at center. I don't know if he's good enough at tackle or guard to be to be on the 53. I don't know if someone's rushing to sign him. The Panthers did last year and quickly discarded him. So I think he's someone you can keep on the practice squad.
Yeah, I the more that I've thought about it, the more I'm calling BS on Stout's moves with Toth here for the reasons that you talked about. Like, I think that Toth has actually had a pretty good summer. I don't think he played well last night. And it's nice that he provides that backup for all those spots, but you can get that on the practice squad. And I don't think that the league is going to view him as claimable. And so, yeah, I think Kennard has a chance, and he has some tackle guard versatility. But I also think this is one where obviously Steen's injury is going to play a big role, because if Steen is actually out for a while, then they do need to carry somebody else here, and then maybe it's Toth, maybe it's Kennard. Yeah, I also think Kennard, a spot where they may add somebody off the waiver wire.
I think Kennard. Where did Kennard rank in our? What's the game we played with the futures contracts players?
Yeah, it's a good question. Aquara won, right?
Yes,
but I don't remember the name of the game either.
So Kennard, they gave some real money to in the futures market. Former 5th round pick, and we heard Lane Johnson's quote, but I think we're seeing the way they're using him in the preseason. Now Keegan played every snap last night. Kennard didn't play every snap last night, but Kennard played a lot of it. Played 80% or thereabouts. I need to pull the snap counts in front of me, but I think Kennard's a guy that is intriguing with the age profile and the athletic profile, and certainly the size too.
Yeah, we've got this.
Are they hiding Danko, by the way?
Yeah, what's going on?
I got to think they're hiding him.
They must be hiding him, right?
Yeah. I mean, someone said to me, do you think they just don't think he's good? And I'm like, if they don't think he can play, they want to keep him on the roster at this point, right? Like, if they're not going to, if they don't think he's good enough to get into the game, they're not just going to use the roster spot. So I think this is them not giving any teams film on him.
But he's going to have to play that third game, right? And like, don't they want Vakalahi to get out there just to see what an actual football game is like?
Well, like Vakalahi might not be ready to play football. That's one because there's a roster exemption there. But Dankwa, it wouldn't surprise, or perhaps if they wait till the third game, there's not enough film on Dankwa at that point. Maybe they give Dankwa like the fourth quarter. By that point, teams have already kind of made their minds up. But yeah, I think this is a hiding Dankwa situation.
I know it's almost too convenient. It would put. I mean, if teams are paying that close attention, it would make you want to claim him just to.
Sure,
they're being too secretive about it.
It's like, hell, you can't get this by on me, man. Yeah. I see what you're doing. I watched the PHLY Eagles show. Bo Wulf's been right on everything so far. I'm gonna snatch him up. Yeah.
Okay. Before we get to the defense, well, I think we've both got all three specialists. No Lovato cut resign mechanics going on here, so we can talk about before we get to the defense. Sucking them back, because a lot has changed over the years, my friend. But one thing that hasn't is the great taste of Miller Lite. Another thing that hasn't is that Tanner McKee is better than Kenny Pickett. Also, Miller Lite is less filling. So what is the best thing about the original light beer? Miller Lite sparked this debate all the way back in 1975, and we still haven't settled it. The good news, porque no los dos. You don't have to choose. You get both with Miller Lite, because Miller Lite keeps it simple. Undebatable quality, great taste, only 96 calories. It's the beer that strips away everything you don't need and holds on to what matters most. A light beer that tastes like beer, less filling, and only 96 calories. The original light beer since 1975. I'll be honest with you, Zach. I didn't used to be a Miller Lite guy. I didn't used to like Miller Lite. But like pickles and olives, my adult taste buds have become a little bit more refined. I appreciate a Miller Lite. I mean, ice cold Miller Lite to crown a softball championship. You don't have to choose what's best, Zach. Miller Lite has great taste and is less filling. Tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/PHLYBirds, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces, fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer.
When we speak about the 53-man roster, one of the things that I keep in mind is it's a shame discussing players who might lose their jobs, right? And you never want to talk about someone who might lose their job. But when jobs are lost, you know what you want? You want a quality place to find jobs or to find candidates. And let me tell you about Indeed, because at Indeed, they are driven by the search for better. When it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate is not to search at all. Don't search. Match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global visitors, according to Indeed data, and matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree. Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day. Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/AllCity. Just go to Indeed.com/AllCity right now and support our shows by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/AllCity. Terms and conditions apply. If you need to hire, you need Indeed.
All right, Zach, let's talk defense. Edge, Brandon Graham, Bryce Huff, Josh Sweat, Nolan Smith, Jalix Hunt. Those guys are all locks. I have one little change here. Last time we talked, I had Terrell Lewis on for some reason.
Yeah,
he's off. Yeah, that was
okay,
odd.
he ran away from that one. Yeah.
But I have Patrick Johnson on the team right now.
Stop reading my spreadsheet, man. You and I.
So far we only have one difference, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
Uh,
We'll see what we see.
Look,
I think Patrick Johnson has he has brought real juice as a pass rusher in ways that are different than Nolan Smith, like where like they have been real pass rush moves one-on-one. And we know that he's a big value add on special teams.
Exactly.
So I think this is a nice this is one where you would imagine, like, the thing we've talked about, like, oh, it's the worst day of the year, like you have to cut these guys. But the flip side to that is how good it feels to reward the guys who have earned their roster spots. I would imagine that, like, Nick Sirianni getting to tell Patrick Johnson that he's made the team again is one that he will be really looking forward to.
Well said, because if you talk about competition, he's earned a spot. There's sometimes a thought in the NFL that when, like, a fringe player gets to the last year of his deal, you're less apt to keep him. You're more apt to keep someone with more term on their contract if things are equal. I get that. Patrick Johnson's been with the team for 3 years now. He's in year 4. Hasn't distinguished himself entirely in the regular season, but I think he's earned it with the way he's played throughout the summer, throughout camp. And you hit it on the head in terms of special teams value. And the holdover on this staff, from a coordinator perspective, is Michael Clay. The Eagles have a lot of new faces, but Michael Clay trusts Patrick Johnson.
All right, defensive tackle, Milton Williams, Moro Ajuma, which I got to work on that. That's the actual pronunciation. Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, those guys are locks. I have Marlon Tuipulotu on the roster as well. And I have Thomas Booker on the roster.
Same thing with me, Bo.
Wow.
Yes, same thing. Carter, Davis, Williams. I called it Ojimo. It's Ajama?
Ajuma is, I believe, the actual pronunciation.
Like a U, Ajuma. Okay.
Yes.
Tuipulotu and Booker. Despite what Vic Fangio said last week, I think they are going to keep a backup nose, and I think Marlon T is the backup nose. And then Booker, I think Booker's earned it. And similar to Kennard, he's a young player with a decent, not high draft pedigree, but was drafted. Usually when you sign someone to a futures deal who's a recent draft pick, you're not just looking at, like, the preseason film that player had elsewhere. You're looking at your college evals. And I imagine their college eval on both players was high. And I think Booker's earned it with the way he's played. I haven't watched the film back, but I thought he played well last night.
He did. No, this is Booker's 3rd year. And if you're thinking about what is different, he was a little bit more of a sort of a Milton Williams-y edge tweener with the Texans. And here he's been able to just focus on defensive tackle. I think his body has changed just a little bit. There's a reason that he was one of the final 3 for the Bo Wulf Camp Crush. Of course, he stole that day of practice as the story. And I think he does have a good chance. One other thing to keep in mind here, I think PJ Mustipher has had a pretty good summer, and I thought he looked good last night. It was a little bit on my radar that Vic Fangio didn't call out Marlon T as the backup nose, even though I think Marlon has had a good summer and had a really good practice in the joint practice against the Patriots. I wonder if there's, for whatever reason, that Fangio would prefer Mustipher to Marlon, but just a thing that's on my radar.
I was going to make a dad joke about the name. He must have made the most of his opportunity this summer, something like that. But
nice.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, well, I like that.
Okay.
All right, linebacker. Zach Bond, Devin White, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., locks to make the team. Nakobe Dean, probably the same. I thought Nakobe Dean looked very good last night. Do you think, before we get to the rest of this, do you think Nakobe Dean is his ace hardware temperature is rising as possibly pipping Zach Bond as the week 1 starter opposite Devin White?
I do. I absolutely do. I thought going into camp, Nakobe Dean was going to win the job. It surprised me how much Bond has played first-team linebacker. And it surprised me how much he's played first-team linebacker. But I think Dean's played better in preseason games. So I'm going with Dean here. I think Dean has more upside. I do wonder Vic Fangio is kind of the old school type. If I understand, reps are bars of gold. I get that. But do you think there's any part of what's happened this summer to be like motivation for Nakobe Dean? That we're not going to give you this job, that we're going to put, because like you mentioned, the Bond thing seemed weird all along. And Dean, there is this.
I think Vic was playing some mind games.
Yeah, it's like, look, you were Vic Fangio says, I wasn't here last year.
I'm not handing this guy anything. Let's see.
This guy was given the job. This guy was the number one guy last year. He hadn't earned anything yet. I'm not just gonna make him the number one here, right?
Ooh,
I'm gonna put you with the second team. I'm gonna put you behind this guy who's never played inside backer before. And if you want to be the starter, you gotta go out there and you gotta show me what you did at Georgia.
I like that.
Do you think there's anything to that?
I think there is something to that. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think that it was necessarily like a grand design of this is what's going to turn Nakobe Dean into the guy that I need him to be. But I think he viewed it as a challenge. And it's also not as if from the bars of gold standpoint, like they haven't been rotating a lot. And like, I think they've been experimenting with different combinations. I think it's been more about who you're playing next to than necessarily what unit you're on. So I do think that there is something to that. And to be fair, I big picture, I still remain skeptical of the Zach Bond thing, but I do think that he has looked more comfortable as an inside linebacker than I expected him to.
Yeah, I would agree there.
Now, Zach, I also have Ben Van Sumeren on the roster. Maybe my last guy on the team. I have them keeping 5 for special teams reasons.
I have Van Sumeren as well.
Wow.
I have White, Dean, Bond, Schroeder, Van Sumeren.
Me too.
So I take this. You went really deep in the secondary, I imagine, just based on the numbers here.
Pretty deep. Yeah.
Okay.
I have 10 in the secondary.
Okay.
So let's get to the secondary. The 2 changes that I have. I had Bradberry on last week, or whenever we did this 2 weeks ago. I do not have Bradberry on anymore. I had Josh Jobe on before, and I no longer have Josh Jobe on. And so I have Avonte Maddox, Keely Ringo, Isaiah Rodgers, Darius Slay, Quinion Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. I have Eli Ricks on the team.
So do I.
Yes. And then I have C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Reed Blankenship, and last time I had Sidney Brown on PUP. I have Sidney Brown on the roster. That's what makes my 10.
So that's our lone discrepancy here. Is I have Sidney Brown starting the season on PUP. Obviously, if he is healthy in the next week and a half, then he's on the 53. And my last cut, I don't know if my last cut would be Van Sumeren, Booker, or Kennard. It would be one of them. But you and I are on the same wavelength here. So we need to mention the name because he was the thumbnail for this show today. We have both of us have James Bradberry off the roster. Is that influenced by last night?
Yes, significantly so. I just think last night there were 4 plays where it was asking 4 different things of James Bradberry at safety, and he wasn't really able to do any of them. There was the missed tackle in the open field. Okay, Jalen Polk's a second round rookie. He's got some wiggle. You can't kill him for that. He gets sort of plowed over in the hole coming down against the run. Okay, he's showing a willingness to get in the hole at least. You were not going to expect him to, knock a guy over who's running full speed. There's the touchdown to Drake May, the keeper, where his eyes are just not following what's going on. And even after May escapes, he takes another step inside. Okay, like maybe the diagnose is not where it needs to be. And the biggest red flag of all, the worst thing, was that opening drive of the game where Jacoby Brissett misses Austin Hooper, but Austin Hooper has just run past James Bradberry. And if James Bradberry can't be trusted to cover a tight end who's not even like that dynamic of a tight end, then I don't know that there's really reason to believe that this is going to be an experiment that is worthwhile. And for the reasons we talked about last night, I think it's a bummer because I think James Bradberry is a good guy from all accounts. I think he's a really smart football player. I think it's a very human story of this guy was on top of the world 2 years ago, one of the best of his profession, and maybe he can still see it, but his body just is not what it once was. And I think it's too bad. I think it's probably at a point now where I don't know that they're going to get anything for him at all. Like, would you flip him for a conditional 7th? Is that even a nice thing to do? I think at this point you probably let him go, and if somebody signs him, you get that little minor offset or whatever. But I think it's probably tough.
Yeah. So my view on this guy, I don't dispute anything you said. I think if you make that determination, cut him today. Give him a chance to go catch on somewhere else.
I think there is a chance that they do that this week.
Yeah, like don't play this till don't play because obviously they would flip him for a 7th round pick. If you flip him, the guaranteed salary, the $2.1 million, is then absorbed by the other team. So you do save that, right? So it behooves the team to be able to trade him. But if you don't, no team's going to trade from at safety at this point. A team would be interested in at corner unless you're going to play him at corner in this 3rd preseason game. Nothing that happens in the final few days, barring an injury, I suppose, would affect that. I think this is where, and I get this is a business, and the obligation you have to James Bradberry is the terms of the contract, and they're paying him the terms of the contract, right? So you can say they don't owe James Bradberry anything more. I would say from like a human perspective, from the way you treat somebody, this guy gave you like I don't think effort's ever been an issue with him. I think I respect on a human level the way he's approached this summer at safety. I do think he's given an earnest effort to try to learn this position, to try to contribute to the team. I think he's genuine when he says that. If you make that determination, cut him today, cut him tomorrow. Give him a week and a half to catch on somewhere before X% of the league is, available to be signed. And that head start could be valuable. And I think that's the right thing to do for someone who played his butt off for your team for the past 2 years and was a major part of you winning the NFC.
I pretty much agree with you. I think that's right. Now I think you could argue that is it even helpful to him to go somewhere for the last week of camp? Maybe he'd be better off just going somewhere after cutdowns and seeing where things shake out. But yes,
gives that team a chance to see him at corner is my point. If you're the Carolina Panthers and you say, look, here's a veteran who started his career here, good locker room guy. You have this, you can come. We're not going to trade anything for him. We're holding on to our draft picks, but if you cut him, we'll sign him, and we're going to take a look at him at corner. It gives him a week and a half to play corner for a new team, because I also think if he gets cut, he has to wait probably for week 2. If he gets cut on cutdown day, he has to wait for week 2 to sign somewhere. I don't think the team's going to sign him sight unseen, guarantee the contract this year. He might have to go to a practice squad somewhere or something like that. I think he has better chance of. I think it's better for the player if you make that determination to cut him now.
Now the ruthlessness of it, Zach, is that they're really shallow at safety right now, and so I presume that Avonte Maddox is not going to have to play that 3rd preseason game. And so that leaves just Tristan McCollum and Andre Sam, who are healthy. And then we got to talk about McCollum because I think he has a real chance. But that's it. They kind of need somebody.
Sure.
Can you move? I don't know. Can Zach McPherson play safety for a game? They got to get through that 3rd preseason game.
True. You can always sign someone off the street and, put him out there. But no, that's a valid point. I mean, if you're keeping him to play 50 snaps in a 3rd preseason game against the Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, that's heartless, but yeah.
That is a ruthless endeavor. Eli Ricks, you and I both have Eli Ricks. Your feeling there is just a good young corner is too valuable to cut?
That's pretty much it. And I don't even know that they would say good, but a guy with upside who could potentially grow into being a 3rd or 4th outside corner, 2nd year of his rookie contract for team control. I think probably too good to cut. We've talked about this since I think February or March that this is the guy who is the most likely guy to get traded, and make sure you hit the like button. But if that does not come to pass, I don't think that they're going to just let him go.
On the issue of the safety depth, I'm playing Dr. Berman again here.
On Job, sorry. Just because I'm keeping Patrick Johnson and Ben Van Sumeren, I don't feel the need to keep Job, and we know that Cooper DeJean is a very good gunner as well.
Well said. And I think I think the Gene. I still think the Gene's going to return from them. By the way, so safety here. I'm playing Dr. Berman for a second. I probably shouldn't. I can't diagnose things from a press box.
I like Dr.
Berman. Caden Stearns. I watched Caden Stearns at Texas. I watched him with the Broncos for a bit. I don't know enough about his normal gait. Okay, I want to make that clear. But unless he kind of walks like Josh Sweat, Caden Stearns is not near playing from what I'm about. Like he's really laboring when he walks. You could say he walks gingerly, but no, it's more like it's not a ginger walk. It's a laboring walk right now. So Caden Stearns, he's someone that the Eagles like. That's why they signed him when the Panthers failed the physical. My understanding is they actually, I think they actually were interested in claiming him. The Panthers had the top claim. But once he became available, the Eagles overlooked the physical part of it, thinking that, all right, they'll give him time in a ramp up period. I don't know when he is ready to play because he looks like he doesn't look like he can go and play a game this week.
That's good to know. Yeah. I needed a little Dr. Berman there. That's good.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to make the team. So two more guys to talk about quickly. Tyler Hall, who we have not talked about a ton, I think has looked fine as the backup nickel, but I just think between Maddox and DeJean, and maybe you coach Isaiah Rodgers into that they don't need to roster Tyler Hall just to be the backup nickel in the way that they did with Mario Goodrich last year.
Agree there. They have. I think DeJean's really the key. And by the way, if you think Sidney Brown is going to be back, Sidney Brown can play the nickel as well. Yeah. All
right. Last one is Tristan McCollum, who has played well this summer, has flown around, made some plays on balls, been willing to be physical. I thought he didn't look terrible last year either. I think there's a real chance, and maybe if Sidney Brown does go on PUP, that might be. I would probably give that spot to Tristan McCollum.
Maybe so. I like Tristan McCollum. I'm not ready to put him on the 53. I tend to go lighter at safeties than. I would rather keep a line D-line than a fringe safety.
But you only have you only have three safeties on your team if you count Avonte Maddox.
I have three safeties on my team. Yeah, because Brown's going to come back, and I think you can crush. I think the Gene can play safety in a pinch, but I think you can get by with three safeties right now.
Okay. All right, good stuff, Zach. We head into the weekend. Now the shows are done, but we are not. Eagles are practicing Saturday and Sunday. We will have you covered on allphly.com and also those banger videos that pop up, those camp in 60 seconds. Zach, getting the work done. Our Eagles insider. Did you feel the love after your performance last night?
I rushed up the right. And I appreciated the nice words you and Jamie said, and
all the listeners, all the viewers.
Yeah, I read the comments. I appreciate it, but honestly, that's yesterday's news right now. Right? It's about what I do tomorrow.
Wow, amen. All right, that'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. Very exciting week to come. Lots of Eagles practice on Wednesday. We're going to be joined in studio by an old friend. And then on Thursday, the 7th annual Osprey Awards. Very exciting. I will tell you that as I teased during the announcement, the last couple Ospreys have been a little bit bittersweet. This one will be a little bit more exciting. We have exciting news to announce during the Osprey Awards this year. So that'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. For all of us here, PHLY and Julia behind the scenes, playing hurt, making it all happen. We thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Hit the like button, all that good stuff. We will talk to you on Monday at 2:00. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.